How are you doing, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Compelling Conversations. And this time, well, this is also kind of like a dual podcast because this is like an episode of Compelling Conversations, but this is also like an opener for, this is like your first episode of your podcast, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is, can I say your last name?
Yes, sir.
This is my friend Zach Olson. Cool guy. We work together. And today we're going to be just kind of riffing it, talking about a number of different things. So I guess we should start out where we're kind of connected, which is the fitness industry and how we both work at a gym, man. What first possessed you to want to get a certification and start personal training? How'd that all start, man?
Well, after high school, over a long period of time, my life kind of went downhill, and so did my health and weight. And I kind of turned it around at one point. Just got so like in the hole that sometimes you dig yourself out. It just takes getting down.
Wait, so how'd you get into the hole so bad, man?
I played baseball. Baseball was like my life.
Yeah.
Like growing up, and I started to play in college, but kept getting this chronic injury over and over again. And
Wait, what kind?
Hamstring tear.
Oh, frick.
I tore twice, but mostly strains. Hard to get back into it after over and over again. So baseball ended, life kind of came to a halt, and everything. Eating wasn't very conscious.
Yeah.
I'm blanking.
Huh?
Where was I?
You're just talking about how like you kind of nosedived a little bit.
Oh yeah. So then I started to turn my life around and started to lose weight. Just got so depressed and down the hole that eventually turned it around. Started to lose weight, and then started going back to school. And I moved back here, and I was in a kinesiology class, and Sheena came in to give a little speech.
Wait, really?
There was a few guest speakers that semester that the kinesiology teacher lined up. They were friends, and she came in. Our class was only 10 to 15 people.
Really?
And
Daniel was in that class too, wasn't he?
Oh yes, yeah, he was. And that was the other side. It was Sheena at High Desert Fitness, and I had seen Daniel wearing the shirt around.
Huh.
And eventually went in there and started the conversation and I wanted to change lives because I realized in that moment that I had done it and that it's a valuable thing to have experienced it before of that
losing all the weight.
Yeah. Whereas you have all different walks of trainers. Some trainers come from they've been fit their whole life, which is good, and they have a good understanding of fitness.
Yes.
But the other side is understanding the process of being so far from that.
Because that's the really discouraging thing, man. That's the discouraging thing, and you got through that, and
right.
That's something I don't have. I can't really I can't really be on the same understanding with people about that.
Well, I would say you can, because I want to say you were on the other spectrum.
Yeah.
Weren't you smaller growing up?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
You're pretty. You got some muscle density, do you now?
Yeah, but that was just natural development. I think that was genetic mostly.
Really? You don't think that your work in the gym?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I guess I never saw it as this big, intense triumph of mine. That it was more like, okay, I'm gonna go to the gym because it feels like something I should do, and it'll be cool to grow some muscles. And I was just seeing gradual muscle growth as I got older and kept going to the gym, and then the testosterone did a lot of the work for me, So I didn't really have to put in as much work as a lot of people did.
I think you're selling yourself short there a little bit. When did you start going to the gym?
Sophomore year.
And it was consistent from the start? Did you build up to it, or you've always been, once you started going, it was every day?
No, it was like there'd be times where I would be really hardcore, and then I would fizzle out, and I would kind of start getting really inconsistent, and then I'd get back into it and go hardcore, and then so that's pretty much the entire time of me going to the gym has been like that. I get really intense, and then become inconsistent, and then get really intense and then become inconsistent.
Wouldn't you say that's the case with most people?
Yeah.
And that's the struggle too, is the consistency?
It's the consistency.
So
man.
you 100% do relate to,
yeah.
right? That like common problem
Yeah.
of.
I mean, what I mean though is like I'm not trying to sell myself short. What I meant is like I felt like I never had this big intimidating barrier in front of me. Like for like someone who's like really overweight and like who's, you know, been really unhealthy for a while, it feels like they have this huge mountain to climb. You know, for me it's like, you know, yeah, maybe I didn't have that much muscle, but I was young and like I'd always been pretty fit and strong like my whole life. Like even though I didn't have a lot of muscle, I was still strong. Capable. I mean, I did Taekwondo. I did soccer from K through 5, and then I did Taekwondo from that point on until freshman year, and then I did wrestling. And all throughout that, I always felt pretty confident and capable in my athletic abilities. And
was there any one between Taekwondo and wrestling? Was there one that like stood out to you that you loved in that?
Well, man, Taekwondo was actually a really good time because it was. I just really like that, the way it applies to fighting and like, cause sparring, man, like, there's nothing more satisfying than doing a butterfly kick, doing a whole 360 degrees in the air, and your foot hitting someone's face.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is so satisfying.
Right.
So like all the spin kicks and the acrobatics of it and the breaking of the boards, but yeah, I see what you're saying, man. So like, I mean, yeah, I guess I just have a higher degree of sympathy for people because I never really had that big challenge, I guess.
It's fun to break those barriers, though.
But like,
that's the other side, right?
Here's what I'm interested in, man. Because, you know, I'm like interested in psychology, and one of the most fundamentally interesting concepts to me that's so like universal throughout life is John Piaget, the developmental psychologist, talked about assimilation and accommodation. And so we go through the world with a set of ideas and ways of understanding the world, like schemas is what he called them. And every time we confront new information in our life, whether that's just actually learning something new, or whether something really tragic happens in our life, or you know we feel defeated or something really bad, we have to like allow the death of our schemes, the death of our current worldview, to allow the rebirth of ourselves and our new worldview. We have to like allow our old conceptions to die in order for our new you know, conceptions about the world to take place, and that's always a painful process. And I guess my question to you is, throughout this, because I really want to get into the nosedive, man, because I feel like recently I've been going through a nosedive, and I've recently kind of had a little bit of a rebirth, like this week, and like, so I want to know the process of the nosedive. And what was the fundamental details at the very bottom of that pit that made you like, what was the information that confronted you that made you have to all of a sudden reconstruct your worldview, and how did that process, you know, occur, and what was the old Zach Olson versus the new Zach Olson? Like, you know, like get into that a little bit. Talk about the rebirth that had to take place in order for you to all of a sudden become a passionate person about health.
Well, the funny thing is, it's a pretty fresh feeling now because, like you said you were going through some stuff recently and you feel newly reborn. Mm-hmm. And I've same thing here. Within the last month or two, kind of feel like I've turned a corner and dug myself back out of another rut.
Wow, really? What was that rut about, man?
Well, like you know, I was supposed to ship out in like April, and then so it's been pushed off months and months.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff out of my control, where I think we're all a control freak to a certain extent. And when things kind of leave, you don't have any grasp of something and you're just kind of waiting around. And I ended up going down into one of those ruts of depression and not purpose, right? When you lose purpose.
You lose your sense of purpose.
Right? And you lose direction. You don't have purpose, you don't have direction. Like, what do you have? right?
Yeah.
And I gained weight. So I went from like 190, 200 up to 225.
So what, were you not working out during that time?
So I got injured too.
Oh.
Just some minor tweaks and injuries where I like took some time off and then probably took too much time off. Eating bad, like diet started. The more you do. Once working out, slows down, so your diet decisions also turn bad, right?
You just stop caring.
Right, yeah. Purpose, right? There's no purpose to it anymore. You don't give it purpose.
Yeah, man.
And I would say it's despair though, and desperate. Like you get down where you're just so desperate to get out of that. You get so sick of that feeling. Like you get sick of feeling this cloud over you.
Oh, it's a hard thing, man. And when you actually get confronted with the really dark shit, where you feel like it's either suicide or change, like that, I don't know if you've ever been at that place.
Yes. And I think the rebirth is in a way, there's a suicide to your personality, right? Like, or to who you are. You kind of, some part of you, some negative part of you dies so that you could fill it with a positive void, right?
Exactly,
like you're
man.
That void.
That's the assimilation and accommodation.
Right.
Like you get assimilated to a current worldview, and then new information confronts you, and you have to accommodate that new information, and that often requires the death of some old set of preconceptualizations that was basically holding you back.
Your perception changes.
So what was it in this case? What was it in the before case, and what was it in this case? Like what did you have to realize?
Okay, well, you bring it up, it's either suicide or change type of thing.
Yeah.
It's where that at that beginning, when I was up to 300 pounds, it was not liking myself, not liking who I was, and thinking, is this who I'm gonna die as? Like, is this who like I want to be? No, like, is this what my life is gonna be? And just changing that around. One thing, do you know Rich Roll?
No, I don't.
He's a ultra marathon vegan, and he's wrote a few books, but he went through addiction and depression and stuff like that. And I actually just finished his book before he came over, and one of the things he was saying right before he came over was that an addict doesn't change when they need to; they change when they want to. Like, and I think that,
dude, that's so true, man. That's
and I was addicted to food and many other things at that time.
Yeah.
So it took wanting to change, not needing to change.
That's a good point, man. That's actually a really good point.
And to get to the recent, how'd you phrase it? The beginning and how I just went through it.
Yeah, after. So the old nosedive and then the new nosedive, I guess. The
new nosedive, in all honesty, scared the crap out of me, and I felt like I was headed back down that path.
Whoa.
So that was real.
You really thought that things were going that bad?
Yeah, it felt like it was headed that way. I felt like I was driving down the highway and took that exit again.
Dude, that's what I was been worried about lately, man.
Okay.
Continue on now, man.
I think that about, in the simplest terms, sums it up. It just scared the crap out of me.
Oh, man. See, dude, it's like, because then when you get into your head, like you start having all these paranoid delusions about yourself. Because it's an interesting thing. Because part of how we view ourselves is through the lens of all the other people that, at the end of the day, aren't that much different from you.
Oh, right.
Because everybody in the world like has their own sets of problems, and we're all. It's the interesting thing about people, man. It's like we all have an infinite capacity for evil. Like we
have infinite potential.
And we all have an infinite potential.
There's no peak to anything.
Like, and that's the scary thing, man. It's like, that some part of you could have been Hitler if the circumstances were bad enough.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably true for anyone. And so, like, when you see yourself, man, like, when you see yourself sliding down a slope, like, where you're getting more depressed and you're losing motivation to improve yourself more, even though you know full well that you should improve yourself and you know that that's a good thing to do and you've, kind of thought about it many times in your life. Like, but then when you see that you're not doing it and then the more toxic behavior patterns start to take take root. It's like you look at the heroin addict to your left and you're just like, man, I bet you at one point that guy was
Me.
a kid who was full of life,
Right.
who had a lot of potential. And maybe I'll be like him.
Yeah, there's the potential's there to any time, right?
And so that's scary, man. That scared me too.
I think that's what when people get angry at other people, that's what it is. It's that behavior that you don't want to see in yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you get upset at somebody being lazy or, you know, it's not because you're this bad person. It's because you're scared, just like I was scared of heading down that same path. You're just scared of not making the right decision.
Yeah, man. And it's kind of crazy how like the nosedive, it starts out so subtle and then it turns into a big constant compiling of bad behavior issues, like bad behavior decisions. Like at first it's like you figure out that you got postponed and then you get postponed again. It feels like you just got kicked, you know, while you were down. And then it's just like, okay, well, screw it, man. Why not just go eat a burger and not work out?
Right.
You know, screw it. Like, you know,
the YOLO
shit
mentality
sucks right now. Yeah.
YOLO, and you could eat the greasy cheeseburger, or you recognize that as maybe I should like really be conscious of what I'm putting in my body because I only have this one shot.
Because, dude, like when you're sad, you're so much more willing to let yourself, like, just kind of treat yourself.
Right.
And that's like the opposite of what you should do. Right. Really.
And it puts you deeper in that hole. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
It's crazy, man. It's like,
I was talking to a client yesterday, and she put pretty much a similar thing to what you're saying. And the good words was, we walk through fires in life, and even when they don't burn us, we continue going on in life with that smoke on us. And she was saying, and I took that as, you know, it's suffocating. That's not the point that she was trying to make, but that smoke on you, it's suffocating from fires that didn't even burn you. You know, you think about times. What I do a lot is I beat myself up over those times that I get down, that those little nosedives that we're talking about. I beat myself up when I'm out of those, thinking, wow, how much further, my potential is limitless. How much further could I be along right now if I didn't have those down periods? You know?
Yeah, man. You know, and it's just like, because you know the types of things you should do to, like, improve. But, like, when you get to the end of the day and it feels like you just lost the whole day and you didn't do those things that are required for you to improve that you want to do, and then you go to bed thinking, tomorrow I'm going to do these things to improve. And then you just, it's just a repetitive cycle, dude. And it gets...
I've been dealing with that lately.
Isn't that fucking discouraging,
Yes.
man? I'm sorry. That's just discouraging as hell, man.
And I would say the last few weeks have been pretty good, but
You've been doing better?
stressed out of my mind because, like you're saying, every night, and it's during the night that the stress comes along, because I'm noticing I've been being productive all day, but not as productive as I want to be.
Yeah.
I've been being way more productive than I was, you know, during that nosedive where, you know, you have no motivation to do anything. It's hard to
it's hard to get anything done.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
it's hard to focus because all you're thinking about is this nosedive that you're doing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's, because, like, I don't know. For me, like, tell me what you think about this. My solution, because what I ended up thinking, what I ended up concluding is the reason I kind of started to go on this nosedive. There's a lot of different reasons for it. You know, a lot of things that I became discouraged about that I probably shouldn't have let get to me. And a lot of, you know, really bad, because sometimes, like, you'll get influenced by people. Because we're all influencing one another. And we're all passing on our problems to one another.
That comes to the getting angry at people for being lazy or...
Yeah.
Right.
But like if you make a good friend, right? Some of your insecurities will become their insecurities. Just by the nature of being around them. And you don't mean to do it. But yeah, you pick up people's problems and you give your problems to other people. Like, you pass on your perceptions, and some of those perceptions are bad. And
would you say it's because you make them realize that that's something that they could worry about? Like,
yeah,
you know?
Mm-hmm. See, for me, I was comparing myself to people. And it's like, I know that I shouldn't do that. But I realized that, like, I started doing that. And that was one of the main things that... So that was part of my rebirth, is realizing I should just be true to myself.
Well, I don't know how you think, but I tell myself that I don't care what people think all the time, but then I catch myself caring
what everyone thinks.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Dude.
you do. Because you are you are who you believe you are, but in society's sense, you're the sum of what everyone thinks about you. Right?
Exactly. Because that's an interesting thing, because we are an actor in the world, right? we act our way out as a character in the world. But being a character means that you're the product, exactly like you say, you're the product of people's perceptions of that character. So it's like what you do almost doesn't even matter. Like what you think about yourself almost doesn't even matter on a certain way, in a certain level.
Something I recently thought is when I was going through one of those nosedives, and I had I busted up my toe and couldn't do anything for a few days, so there's a lot of self-reflecting and self-thought. And one of the things that I keep thinking about is how we don't even really talk to each other. Like right now I'm talking to your ego and you're talking to my ego, even though we know each other pretty well and we're comfortable, but there's still it's how I want you to perceive me and how you want to be perceived by, back and forth, to where
that's true.
Getting down to the core of who the person is. I think the thing is, everyone's misunderstood to a certain extent.
Oh,
like
everyone,
it's
man.
so hard to get exactly what's in your. How many times do you have a thought, say it out loud, and it just doesn't come out how you've been thinking about it?
Well, because we don't even understand ourselves.
Right. Yeah.
And we don't have the capacity to understand ourselves. And you can't even understand the human brain from an objective perspective. All of science right now doesn't understand the human brain. It's like there's like 3 different fields of study that have to be involved in understanding. It's like
including
got
quantum
neurochemistry.
physics.
You've got like neuroscience, psychology. It's like
quantum physics. Right? It's in everything.
So the human brain is just far too complicated to. So like that's like you said, everyone's misunderstood, and we misunderstand ourselves, and it's like we're constantly trying to seek identity. Like we're trying to form an identity for ourselves.
Right.
Like something that you feel like is worth living by, and being that actor in the world based on that. And that's like a lot of ego. It's like you kind of have to dwell on your own ego trip in a way, but as long as that's for the good.
Well, you were saying that we don't understand ourselves and stuff like that. How many times do you look at an old picture, or Facebook shows you an old memory, and you can't believe you even posted that, or right? Like you can't believe that was even a thought, 5 years ago or something.
I know, right? Dude, sometimes I see some of those old things and I'm like, what the heck?
Right.
Like my Missouri stuff, the things from when I was living in Missouri. It was so weird. I was like, I was such a different person while I was living in Missouri.
Well, like you're saying, these rebirth. I was just talking to somebody recently about the recent time I went through and how in ways I feel like a changed person.
Yeah. How do you feel like a changed person, man? What's different about you?
That's tough. I feel like just more level, more just accepting of what things are and what's going on around me.
Yeah.
Not trying so hard to maybe getting down to the ego thing, like kind of a release of an ego trip. Like not really getting more actually not caring what other people think. Like, of course, I care to make other people happy, but if something makes me happy, it's not necessarily dependent on other people, right?
Yeah.
Right? And not so absorbed in societal standards, getting down to what do you want to do with your life? Like what's going to make you happy? What direction do you want to go in?
Yeah.
Where I think a lot of times, let's just say I went to college probably combined like 3 or 4 years and changed my major just as many times. And let's just take like liberal arts. Like a lot of people, there's a certain amount of people that will bash that certain degrees, art degrees, because there's only so much you could do with it. And then so you absorb that and it changes your direction. So people will tell you, oh, you're not going to be able to do much with like an art degree or liberal arts degree or whatever it may be. So you allow that to change your direction in life.
Yeah.
And you get farther away from the thing that.
Yeah, man.
You know?
That's the hard thing see, this is the hard balance to strike, because you should take other people's advice and listen to other people's wisdom,
Right.
but you still also should be true to yourself. But how do you find that balance? Because, like, you know, our minds aren't even fully developed yet, but there's still some concept of self, and there's still some core things that are very important, you know, and that you should live up to, and you shouldn't really care about what other people say.
The whole thing about developing minds too, how it's like, what, 25 is when you're
25, dude. Oh my gosh.
But I think you as a person, your ego, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, is constantly developing. If you're in a healthy state, at 40, you're not fully developed. You know, your brain, by science standards, may be fully developed, but you're a changing person your whole life, you know? I think a lot of people lose that.
Your brain is a product of your environment in a way.
True.
And it's a product of your environment and your experiences and your biology. It's like, I'm taking lifespan development right now, and
oh, nice.
The core thing of that class is this statement that biological processes, socio-emotional processes, and cognitive processes are inextricably interconnected. And that's such a true thing. Like, what we eat has an effect on our brain and our personality, and therefore our behavior. Who we talk to, the amount of compassion we get from our parents, has an effect on our behavior and the way our act on our brain.
We're a sponge.
Yeah, and like what we learn, you know, the way we learn, how fast we learn things, that has an effect cognitively, which affects everything else. So it's crazy how subject we are to change, and you know, I don't know, man. It's weird. Cause okay, let me like, we're getting a little bit too far into the abstract.
Yeah.
Let me refine this topic a little bit about something that I'm personally going through. Cause what I concluded would actually end up helping me with, you know, my nosedive was not working in the mornings anymore. Cause, you know, I took on the boot camp. So for the last, like, what has it been, like 10 months or something? I've been, you know, waking up at 3:30 3 times a week. And, like, I've never been a morning person. Honestly, before I took that job, I'd been going to bed at, like, 3:30 every night, dude.
I'm a night owl, too. I could relate to that.
That's when because, like, at night, when I'm all alone and it's just night and everyone's asleep, for some reason, just something about that hour, it's like, that's when my peak productivity and my focus comes on. Like, nothing really matters, because it's almost like all that exists in this moment is me, the moon and the stars, and my work, and the work that lies in front of me, not because it's what I think that people will think of me based on how I do. It's because me as a person will feel self-fulfilled if I actually accomplish the task of completing this work. So nobody else matters. Nobody's opinion matters. Nothing exists at night for me. It's like, so then all of a sudden,
peaceful.
It's peaceful, man. It's like throughout the day, I can't get my schoolwork done very well, because I'm always so constantly, my brain is all.
You're pulling yourself in a bunch of different directions, let alone the people around you,
I'm
right?
a million times distracted, like everywhere, and like.
I relate to this 100%.
So, like, this time of waking up early has been pretty hard on me, because, like, I haven't been able to have that time to myself, really, and then throughout the day I don't get shit done. And when I
sleep, right?
And I lose sleep. And it's like, because for me, one of the things I kick myself the hardest about is wasting time and not accomplishing anything that I wanted to accomplish, and feeling like, you know, I'm not growing as a person.
That's been the stress over the last few weeks, of feeling like I'm not being productive enough.
Like, feeling like I'm just some worthless piece of shit that's not getting anything done. It's like, what the hell's the point of even doing anything? Like, you know, it's just, you know.
I've been having this the last week or so. It's been the same, like, just not feeling, yeah.
And then you compare yourself to who you were in other times of your life. And this is what I've been doing a lot. It's like, man, I wish I was like that guy from 2017. That guy, man, he was a cool guy. He was so, like, full of life. And
what about you know, kind of the same sense but backwards? Do you ever wish that you were more into fitness and stuff earlier in your life? Because I was always a bigger kid, growing up, and I started going to the gym, not consistent at all in high school. Around the same time that you're talking about, freshman, sophomore year, but never really took it seriously. And maybe it took all that time and all that perception of to be who I am today. But I oftentimes think, what if I was this passionate 10, 20 years ago?
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's obviously, like, talking about altering the fabric of time and reality is
it's worthless.
Scary and complex. But yeah, I think about that sometimes. Not about the fitness thing.
Okay.
But about some other things.
Of course.
I mean, sometimes I, wish I could have changed a couple things.
I think that's everyone has those.
But I don't know. But what do you think about this? This whole thing about. Do you think that I'm working myself up too much, thinking that not having to wake up at 4:30 anymore is gonna help me be happy and productive?
So what do you mean by that? Like, do you like that you are getting
Do you think that it'll actually help? Do you think, because this is my last week. This was the last week I had to wake up early. So do you think next week is actually going to be a really good week for me?
Well, let me ask you this. You've been feeling some type of way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the worst case scenario? Like, you've been feeling bad and you think that's why.
Yeah.
You make an adjustment. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to still feel bad? Or potentially, making that change. If that's what I always say, like, people that are stuck in a job they don't like or something, what's the worst that's going to happen if you leave that job and go to a different job?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to, not like that one now, but at least you made an effort to make a change and give yourself the opportunity to be happy, productive, whatever.
Yeah.
And
that's a good point, man.
It sounds you're really self-aware and analyzing yourself. Like, you're a night owl. You get all your productivity done during that time.
Yeah.
And you got to invest in yourself. Like, you got to double down on your strengths. Like, if your strength is working, doing the most work from from midnight to 3, you gotta
capitalize on that.
Yeah.
Dude, you're smart, man. I never thought about it that way.
Elvis, I'm not smart. How this podcast is gonna sound like you're trying to, like, translate from a different language what I'm trying to say.
No, what you just said, that actually opened my eyes a bit. Because this whole time I've been thinking about it the other way around. I've been thinking, like, man, I'm too reliant on the night. Mm-hmm. So I should try to become a stronger person and get good at waking up early and functioning efficiently.
And that's good too, trying to, like, better yourself where
it was a complete fail.
Yeah. But double down on your strengths and find those things that, like, you struggle with but have some strength in it and improve on those, because you have that momentum and that potential there. But if you're just not able to work from 11 to 1 in the, like, then don't work from 11 to 1. Try to find a way not to work from 11 to 1,
Yeah.
If you have to eat 4 times a day, whatever your diet is asking of you, then you got to try to figure out how to make that work.
Yeah.
You got to make it work for you, right? You make your life work for you, not try to, like, struggle to change.
See,
how you
dude,
are.
that's what this is what I'm, the whole comparing yourself to everyone else. I was thinking, like, see, man, my dad's a highly industrious, highly conscientious person. So he was very good at, like, just getting his shit done and not complaining.
Right.
And so I always compare myself to that point of reference. Like, I just look at myself like this little bitch that's not,
dude, I can relate,
capable of doing the same thing that my dad did. And it's like,
very similar to my dad in that aspect, and the fact I get real excited over things and jump into them. Whereas my dad's, like, this stoic, like, non-emotional, it doesn't get excited, like, just kind of, logical.
Yeah.
Or I use logic, and then I kind of relate to you in, like, self-awareness, constantly thinking about, like, reflecting on myself. But, not, like, and I have that logic, but I just wish I just, more logic. It was just non-emotional decisions, because those are the ones that lead you off that path too. Like, that's an emotional decision to say. It's it's illogical to say, to, like, compare yourself to somebody else and try to be like your dad when you're not your dad.
Yeah, that's true, man. Yeah, because those are all traits of personality, and I ended up realizing, like, I ended up taking a test called understandmyself.com,
Okay.
And at first, I was almost in denial of what it told me. But now I realize how unbelievably true it is.
What did it tell you?
Well, for agreeableness, I was in the 85th percentile. So agreeableness is broken down into compassion and enthusiasm. And then for extroversion, I was in the 56th percentile, which kind of basically makes me leaning towards extroversion, but I've got a little bit of, I'm kind of introverted too.
Right.
Neuroticism, I was in the 87th percentile. So neuroticism is like your propensity for negative emotion.
Okay.
Conscientiousness, I was literally in the 16th percentile, dude. Like literally for organized people are very good at making schedules, planning their day.
Yeah.
I was in the 32nd percentile for that. Industriousness, people that are good at sticking to a schedule and getting their work done on time and being efficient. I was in like the fucking 5th. Something like really low. I was like the 5th percentile. And then openness. Openness is broken down into intelligence and openness to experience. And intelligence is kind of about being interested in a lot of different topics, and openness to experience is kind of like the creativity thing. And I was in the 94th for that. So
that's a website?
Yeah, understandmyself.com.
I'm gonna have to take that after this, cause
it's a good test, man.
Yeah,
but I ended up, because that test is kind of like, I should just like think about that more, because there's no reason I should compare myself to my dad, because I mean, he's high in conscientiousness, and he's low in agreeableness, and he's very low in neuroticism. And he's low in openness. Like his personality is like a total flip flop of mine, and he's like really introverted.
Wouldn't you say that test in a way is also telling you, like it's a person, an outside source telling you who you are too, though?
Yeah.
Like you gotta take it with a grain of salt, right?
Yeah, take it with a grain of salt. That's true. I might be letting it get to my head too much.
Well, like you said, you were in denial about it at first, and you came around to it. So it sounds like you have a healthy view of it, right?
At first, I was kind of like, I'm not that unconscientious.
Yeah.
I kind of realize now that no, I'm very, very unconscientious.
Meaning you make decisions based off emotion, or?
Yeah. Well, no, conscientious. It just means that I'm not very structured. I'm very bad at being structured. I'm too much of a free bird. Like everything I do at High Desert, man, it's all improv.
I relate across the board.
It's all
the
improv,
whole sentence
man.
You just said, yeah.
Like freaking like Katie.
Yeah.
Her personality profile, it would probably look like 87th for organized and like the 90th for industriousness.
But and the thing is, I know I need more of that.
I know.
And I do make calendars and I do take notes. But the thing is, I never look at them. I make a calendar. I will every once in a while. I will make a calendar. I will take notes. I will do all this stuff, and I never, take advantage of looking at it afterwards.
See, that's the thing for me too, man. It's like, this is what I've been struggling with. Like the morning thing, part of me doing the morning thing and comparing myself to other people was me trying to become more conscientious.
Yeah.
Because that's the sad thing about it, man. Like people high in openness, they're great people. High openness people, those are the artists of the world, the creative people. High in openness people are the people who are very intrigued on a lot of topics. They're very, very artistic. They're like, and they're also very likely to take drugs.
Okay.
Because of the high openness to experience.
Right.
But
makes sense.
Openness doesn't get you. Openness doesn't get you shit in society. Conscientiousness, in terms of military, in terms of working your way up in a workplace, in terms of college.
Well, wouldn't you say you need a mix of both though? Because you need to be open to new experiences to get there.
Yes. Dude, if it wasn't for my high openness, the high intelligence, I'd be failing all my classes. Because the only reason I've ever done good in college is because I'm very likely to find the material extremely fascinating.
Right.
And the only reason I get the work done is because it's fascinating to me as a person. But I don't have the conscientiousness. So if the class is not fascinating, it is so hard for
Dude.
me to get the work done. It's like,
That's something I struggled with going to school. Was I love learning and stuff,
Yeah.
but the structure part of it, sometimes like the busy work, assignments and things like that, didn't always do them. Didn't always do my best on them.
yeah, man.
But if something was interesting and there was I hardly read books. Like in high school and stuff, I know how to read. I could read a page or two, but in high school, before probably a year or two after high school, I had never read a book from cover to cover.
Dang.
Never, like not once. I read a lot of magazines. I had read a lot of pieces of books, but I never got the full concept of one book until
I haven't read a lot of whole books either, man.
I might still have it. Chasing Excellence by Ben Bergeron. He's a CrossFit coach and a coach for a few of the past champions. But that book, it's not a long one. It's like, I want to say almost maybe 200 something pages. But I read that book within a day of starting it. And that was the first book I ever read from cover to cover. Just because the passion, like you're talking about, like when you're really interested in something, you don't need no one needed to tell me to read that.
Yeah.
I didn't need a syllabus to tell me that I needed to read that book. It was like I was hungry to read that book.
Yeah, man. For sure, dude. That's the same thing for me in 12 Rules for Life.
Okay.
When I read that book recently.
Who's that by?
Jordan Peterson.
Oh, nice.
That's such a good book, man. But I think we're getting somewhere here, man. I think we've just kind of analyzed an interesting set of details that opens up some interesting questions. We know that we're all personalities.
Mm-hmm.
We all have personalities that are unique to us, and they're the product of partly genetics. A lot of it's genetics, and a lot of it is the product of our environment, but mostly genetics, I believe. And so we see me and you. I suspect that you're kind of lower in consciousness as well and higher in openness. So that's, I think, why we connect.
I'm curious to see what I get on that test and compare it to you. And not, comparing ourselves to others. I would imagine it's very similar.
Okay.
And across the board.
Write down some numbers. I'm gonna guess.
Okay.
Okay. For agreeableness, I'm gonna say that you're high in agreeableness in the 80s. So 83. We'll say 83.
83. That's a interesting number.
Okay, and then extroversion, I'm gonna say you're probably on the introverted side, like 46th.
I'm surprised because sometimes I feel like I talk too much and stuff, but I'm really an introvert. And even starting this podcast, I was ready for it, but that little stumble and stuff at the beginning, the mind just shut down and went introvert that's what that was.
I can tell that you're an introvert who finds people very interesting.
Yes.
So you're like you're in the middle of the spectrum, but you're leaning towards introvert. I'm in the middle of the spectrum, but I'm leaning towards extrovert.
I don't want to derail your point here, but that brings what I was writing down before is I had an epiphany when you were a few minutes ago, you were talking about something that made me think we do need to compare ourselves to others, that we, in a way, that others are the inspiration to, we were talking about that before we started the podcast, that seeing somebody else do it, seeing somebody else start a podcast, seeing somebody else lose the weight, seeing somebody else start a business or whatever it may be, that you, especially somebody that and that gives you, hope is, I guess the word to use is that it's possible,
point, That's a beautiful thing that, like, this is what we've been trying to figure out throughout this podcast is finding that balance. Because for me, the only reason I got this job is because of Daniel Harrison. And you guys remember him from the Fitness Industry podcast. But then, honestly, and I hate to get this vulnerable on the podcast, one of the main sources, one of the main insecurities of me, of my nosedive recently is the fact that I've compared myself to Daniel too much.
In the sense of training or just
as a person?
As a person.
It's like Daniel's just very driven. He's like very independent, and like I don't feel independent, and I kind of seek independence. And he's just really good at like Daniel's just a very respectable man. Like he's just an adult. And like I'm not really quite at that level, and so I've been like getting all wrapped up around my head about, trying to be able to work 2 jobs while going to school, and then I ended up realizing, man, there's no reason that I should try to be like Daniel, because
you're not good at being Daniel.
I'm not good at being
Elvis.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the whole thing is you got to be yourself. You got to double down on your strengths.
Yeah, because I'm like high in openness, and that means being creative. And if I don't dedicate a little bit of my extra spare time towards creative acts, I die.
Yeah.
Creative people who don't engage in creative acts, they fall down a pit of despair, and I think that's one of the main reasons also as well that I started to nosedive, man.
I've never been artistic in any way. Can't draw, can't paint, I'm not musically inclined. I could play hot cross buns on the recorder, and that's about it. But I did start making things like YouTube videos and creating videos on the computer probably around early middle school.
I can tell you're creative, man.
But that's the thing. I started being creative with videos in early middle school, and then it kind of died out. Kind of got discouraged and stuff.
Yeah.
And then really there was nothing. Sports. There's a certain level of creativity there.
Yeah.
There is some art to any type of sport, but it's not. That's not the main thing. It's creative expression is not the main thing there. Which creating a video, which is my way. And these podcasts is my way of creating something.
Yeah.
Like you said, is getting that.
Yeah.
Expressing that.
Well, that's the thing, man. Like, creativity doesn't necessarily mean art.
Right.
Creativity could also mean...
Well, anything could be art.
You analyze creatively.
Yes. Okay.
Maybe the way you think of history is creative. Maybe the way you analyze psychology is creative. These are the people that really think outside the box. These are the people that flip the world upside down.
Mm-hmm.
But those people don't really usually get all the way there.
And I think I got that a little bit when I started doing personal training.
Yeah.
You get creative with workouts and stuff.
Like, I've noticed that about, like, one thing about your workouts that I like shadowing, it seemed like you were really good at, you're just very creative. I don't know. You came up, you had a lot of cool ideas, and you like to mix it up a lot.
I think I just get bored. If I'm doing the same workout, you can't get bored.
Yeah, I get fucking bored too, man.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing. I think we both have a little touch of, it sounds like ADHD type of behavior.
Yeah, man.
Where you got to stimulate that in you. You can't ignore the fact that this is who you are, and like you got to double down on your strengths. You can't ignore that you being a night owl is a thing, and that you do the most. You can't ignore that. You can't just push through these grueling workouts. Sometimes you have to, but you got to switch it up. And that applies to life too, right? Forever change.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, well, here's the question that's opened up now. So we know that on a certain level, you shouldn't compare yourself to other people because other people have their, substrates of behavior that, make them have a propensity towards certain types of skills and certain types of abilities that, help them out in life in A, B, and C ways.
Well, they have different goals, right?
And everybody has their spectrum of abilities and strengths and et cetera, et cetera. But there's some things that in life, especially, like college, it's like conscientiousness it's pretty crucial, man. It's like if you're not conscientious at all, like you literally can't get anything done. It's like you have to be somewhat conscientious. But I guess my question is it even possible to become more conscientious if you don't have that? If you're not naturally a conscientious person, can you become more conscientious? And if so, at what cost? Like, because for me, being high neuroticism, high openness, like I have that high propensity towards negative emotion and that high need for creativity and stuff. Would me trying to be structured and highly conscientious, would that cost too much? I don't know. I mean, what's your experience with this, man, when you tried to alter the fabric of your own existence in a way that you think might make you more suitable for, the Air Force or whatever, what have you, college, what?
Well, it takes time, right? Like it's not going to happen overnight, and I think that's what we call maturity, right? Like you maturing is a time related thing.
Yeah.
So you're not just gonna, lose that want for stimulating your openness and your doing different things and not making those emotional decisions. It's not gonna happen overnight. But every day you can make small decisions to avoid those emotional decisions or doing things that take you off your beaten path.
That's
just
cool,
because
man.
You're excited at the time.
Wow.
You know what is it? And inspiration, motivation is a feeling that comes and goes, but determinism is what stays. Like if you're determined,
Determination.
motivation comes and goes with the wind. Whereas if you're determined to do something, that's getting down to who you are and what you want, your purpose and what you want to be.
Yeah, man. You know what, dude? Something that ever since I was a kid, a word, like it's like ever since I came up with the concept of this word, it's been something that's been such a high virtue in my mind, is the word determination. Like I remember when I was a kid, like doing a pull-up. I used to do so many pull-ups when I was a kid, and I would just hold a pull-up, and I just kept telling myself to have determination and try to hold it as much as I could. And it's just like, if I never came across that concept, it's just like, if I didn't have determination, I don't know where I'd be right now.
I think about that. I use a synonym to that word as will. I think of determination sometimes, but will is what I think about a lot.
There was a time in my life where I was obsessed with what I called willpower challenges. Here's a potential solution that I've noticed. I think you can basically trick yourself into acting out, whatever you're trying to seek that you don't have. For me, it'd be conscientiousness. You can trick. For me, the example is, I can trick myself into becoming a more conscientious person through harnessing my high openness. So, for example, like let's say that I'm having trouble, studying and getting my work done and reading. I can't just tell myself, I can't just be a highly conscientious person and just saying I'm just going to do it and then do it. Like it doesn't come naturally to me. I don't have that switch. It's not there. But what I can do, and this has been helping me recently, is find out some creative way to make the workflow not about getting my work done because I'm just naturally conscientious, but instead to be about this creative thing. So like my friend John was telling me about these Pardono cycles. I forget. Something like you study for 25 minutes and then you take a 5-minute break and then another. So for me, it's like if I can analyze something and collect data on it, to me that stimulates my high intelligence, high openness, because it's like all of a sudden now I'm not just telling myself to get work done and getting it done. I'm getting work done and trying to be as efficient as possible because I'm interested in the workability, the efficiency of this tool.
It's not just getting it done to get it done.
Yeah.
You want to really absorb why you're doing it. Yeah.
And that's almost like what would be interesting to me about supplements. Okay. Like creatine. It's like creatine was kind of like a motivator for me to go to the gym at one point when I first ever tried it, because then all of a sudden I wasn't just telling myself to go work out because I should work out. It was like I was working out because I wanted to test the effectiveness of the creatine.
That's such an interesting viewpoint.
But like, how would that apply to your life?
Well, I guess it goes to that the more you do, the more you do. If you're into, like there's that study on saunas. Like any study in the health industry, I don't want to say I question, but I always...
But you want to test it.
Right. You want to test the saunas out. But the thing with the sauna one that gets me is, and I haven't done too much looking into it, is they say that like, I don't remember the numbers, but so much percentage of people that go into the sauna have a lower disease-caused death rate. So like they're saying that if you use the sauna 20 minutes a day, 4 days a week, you have a lower chance of dying from premature illnesses.
Dude, isn't it like 60%
That's
drop
what I
in
say.
all-cause mortality?
Yes, I think that, yeah.
Yeah, all-cause mortality, the heat shock proteins and all that.
Right. But my thing is, how many people go into saunas that don't do anything else healthy in their life? Like how many people take if they say creatine will keep you alive 5 years longer, how many people take creatine that aren't working out? Like you're saying, like you took creatine and you work, like if you're taking supplements, if you're going into a sauna, chances are you're probably attacking the health aspect of your life in all different ways. You're probably lifting weights. You're probably running. You're probably doing these other things that are also benefiting you. So it's hard. I love the sauna, and it's like mental will is also another thing. Like whatever, if it's helping my body or not, I think it is. And EPO and stuff, there's studies on that it helps endurance and things like that. But putting all that aside, like all the arguments about that aside, it's that willpower that you were talking about, test of will. But the whole thing is with those things is if you're doing one thing, you're probably doing a bunch of others. So it's hard for me to look at studies and say, oh, like sauna is what's doing that, because it's probably sauna. They're, working out
of other
3.
things,
yeah.
That's true, man. I mean, it's hard to limit the variables.
Oh yeah.
It's very hard to limit the variables because, like, what are you just gonna tell this person to promise you that they have this perfectly precise, rhythm of all the other variables in their life? Their diet is completely consistent. Their exercise is completely consistent throughout the testing phase.
Right. Well, and everyone's different. You could tell them.
Yeah.
You could tell 30 people to eat the same exact food,
and you don't know that. Yeah,
they're not going to get the same results
because
right?
people's bodies respond different
Right.
ways. So that's true, man.
Like there's probably some people that shouldn't go into saunas, and then there's other people that probably that would benefit their body well.
You can like discount the other variables based on the sheer amount of data.
True.
So like if you have 5 people that their health improved and they happen to be going to a sauna every day, you could say, well, that might just be a coincidence. Maybe they're also working out. Maybe it just happens to be some other things. If you get 1,000 people from all different, walks of life,
and nearly 70% benefit,
and 70%, yeah, that's
pretty
considerable
high.
Data to
50%. One in every other person. That's
something to consider. A lot, man. That's a considerable jump.
Well, my thing is the placebo effect. I've heard a podcast with a doctor on it, and I can't remember his name, but he was saying that he was making the argument of how great the placebo effect is and how we've got modern day medicine has it completely backwards. Like if something's a placebo effect, we look at that as a negative thing, as if, oh, it's nothing and it's not doing anything for you except making you feel better. Like if the placebo effect happens, he's saying, the doctor, what his point is that's the first thing we should try is alternative medicine, and really placebo effect type things is what, like,
it's way healthier.
If you don't have to get into opiates or whatever it may be, and this placebo effect happens and this person feels no pain or whatever issue they were dealing with is gone. Yeah. That's what we want, right? Like,
yeah, man, the placebo is amazing. I was watching a long time ago, Vsauce had this series on YouTube Red.
Okay.
It was called like Brain something or other.
Okay.
Brain Minefield, that's what it's called, Minefield. Anyway, he was talking about the placebo in one of the episodes, and they had these 3 kids that all had some kind of disorder. One kid had like a really bad stuttering disorder. One kid had like eczema and a picking.
Okay.
Where she was just obsessively picking at her skin.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some other kid. I don't remember what.
So they had 3 different things going on.
They basically put them in They took these kids and, they put them in an MRI, but it wasn't a real MRI thing. It was just like a machine that was off.
Okay.
And they used what's called medical enchantment, where kids don't know anything about the medical world. They don't know anything about these devices, and kids are so enchanted by the world around them that when they see this big frickin' complicated ass machine that they're about to slip into, like, and they know nothing about it, the placebo is so intense because of that frickin' that medical enchantment. The results were absolutely incredible, man. The kid, he had a stuttering disorder that was so bad.
Because that's what he identified as.
After they put him through the fake MRI, he came out and he like basically just stopped stuttering. It was like the mind, the power of the mind, like the brain can literally just do anything. It's
willpower and determination will take you places for sure.
You know, I wish it was easier to control. You know, it's like,
Dude, I was just talking about that with one of my clients earlier this week.
Yeah.
That kind of, we were both talking, going back and forth, and kind of saying how I pulled myself out of that rut, and how I want to say it was Sunday this week. Felt great. Monday woke up,
yeah.
wasn't feeling bad, but wasn't feeling the same way that I did on Sunday. And just the first thought was, man, if only I could capture that in a bottle, like if only I could have captured that feeling yesterday in a bottle and just drank it every day,
Dude, I had the same thing. It was like last weekend, man. I woke up, right? Because the day before it was kind of a bad day, but I ended up sitting down in a chair. I took a hot shower. I was all relaxed. I drank a glass of milk. Milking at night relaxes me.
Do you still do those Irish showers? Is that what it's called? Irish? I've done that.
Scottish showers?
Scottish showers.
No, I don't do them anymore.
I've been doing that recently.
Really?
Yeah.
I need to start doing those again. That'll be good for me.
Explain what that is.
Okay, so you start out hot, and then you just get progressively colder until it's ice cold.
Do you ever just jump into the ice cold?
Yeah, that'll wake you up.
Sorry, I derailed you there.
No, it's good, man. No, but I sat down and I was relaxed, and I was like having a lot of negative emotion and a lot of that was the end of the week of last week, and it was one of the worst weeks ever. I was really, really, really depressed that week, man. And
a lot of self-reflection though.
Yeah, but it was a really, really depressing week with a lot of self-reflection and a lot of growth. And for me, that was the assimilation and the accommodation. I was experiencing the death of self, and that week was so rejuvenating that this week was like I felt like a new person. But anyway, that day, that was like the fundamental moment that kind of started the change, that started the rebirth. I sat in my chair and started meditating. And really meditating and just focusing on my breathing and just letting the air, just focusing on the air going through my nose and out through my mouth. And every time a negative emotion or a negative thought would come into my head, I would basically just look at it non-judgmentally. That's what they say in meditating, to look at it neutral, non-judgmentally. And I would say, I'd feel a negative emotion or a negative thought, and I'd say, well, that's just what I'm feeling right now. A lot of that might be neurochemical reasons because of how bad my circadian rhythm has been. A lot of it is just me comparing myself to other people, and that's something I should stop doing.
But it's not who you are. It's just that feeling.
It's just a feeling.
Yeah.
And then it just the thought just leaves, exits itself, and I was just kind of letting thoughts pass through my mind non-judgmentally and leave when they felt like leaving. And it was just in through the nose, the thought would come. Out through the mouth, it would leave. And I didn't care about them. And the next morning, man, completely sober, I felt like this euphoria, man. It was weird. After a whole week of waking up, hating life, and feeling like absolute shit.
Yeah.
I drive in for work, and this was before I saw you.
Okay.
And I feel this unbelievable feeling of just happiness and satisfaction and euphoria with life, and I haven't felt that since 2017, back when I was just really myself and really just hiking a lot and just doing what I want to do because it's what I want to do, and being happy with that.
And those experiences, I imagine, were much more meditative because you're not so concerned.
Oh yeah.
That 2017 self, when you're
2017 self was great, man, because that was right when I came back from Missouri.
Okay.
And I had my own car, and I had a new perspective of Ridgecrest, and I didn't have as many friends and social webs that I was caught up in anymore. It was it's kind of just me and a few close friends, and so I would just literally be driving on my way home. I look at that little hill, pull over and climb it.
Okay.
It was just every day I would climb a mountain.
You felt free, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I would hike with my dog Jaws all the time. It was a lot of a lot of really peaceful alone time up in the mountains with my dog Jaws, and that was one of the happiest I've ever felt, man. Yeah.
See, that brings up what I was about to bring up, is the happiest I feel, and you were talking about meditating, and I get that feeling from running, yoga, and just, meditating by itself. But it's, that time where you're only thinking about that next breath. You're only thinking about the next step. And everyone has anxiety and stress to some level. And in those moments, you're not able to even think about them. All your problems, everything that you're stressing about is out the window when you're in that meditative state, that gives that whole spiel you just gave. I would sum it up to freedom, right? Like, and when your mind's free to be clear, it's powerful, because most of the time we're not like that. Most of the time there's input coming in. We're constantly thinking and beating ourselves down.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
dude, it was like that amount of clear-headedness I felt the day after that meditation, man. It was like this week, because this week was my last week waking up early. I woke up at 4:30 on Monday, and my mind was literally just spinning up all this toxic shit, and like just kind of like just thinking about a bunch of stuff, and because it was so early and I was so tired and didn't want to get out of bed, it's almost like I barely had any control over it. But all of a sudden I stepped back, I stepped out of myself and looked at the thoughts objectively, and I was like, wow, that's toxic ass shit. Like, it's where I realized, like, and this is what I'm wondering, I want to get your opinion on this, is like, do you think that some people, for some weird genetic and biological set of reasons, are just designed not to be
happy?
No, just designed to be on a certain sleeping pattern. Like, do you think that me waking up at that time, like, genetically is just not good for me psychologically?
Well, there's definitely genetics involved in, like, certain people. A very small percentage of people have a gene that they can get less than 5 or 6 hours of sleep and they're perfectly fine. And it's a very small percentage. So there's definitely genetics involved in how much sleep you need. But I think a lot of times, especially nowadays in modern day, it's involved in your socialization. Like, if all your friends party all night, it's very hard to be that person that isn't and is waking up early.
Because my social circle's at night, man.
Right, yeah.
They're night people.
Right. And doesn't mean you party. I was just using that as an example.
But you're right. I mean, they're night people, and I'm not able to be a night person. Like, if I'm having to wake up at 3:30,
right.
It's like,
it changes the life as you know it. Your life as you know it. You know, you can only do so much.
Yeah, man. But something that's been kind of a freeing feeling for me lately is just embracing the infinite state of change. Like one thing that I've incorporated into this rebirth is like not being so worked up about what's going on in this moment, because when I look back on it in the future, I will look back on it with a smile on my face. One thing that I've always noticed about myself, doesn't matter how bad that time of my life actually is, when I look back on that time, I reflect on the good parts about it. Yeah. And I look at that time of my life as a very beautiful thing and a very beautiful and extremely crucial moment of my self-development.
Even the negative time, the negative part of those times is crucial to who you are today.
Looking back on it, I just have a smile on my face. Right. Like I have a lot of sadness for that, and solidarity with those times and the memories associated with them. But
I think the lessons we learn in life are more important than our successes, Yeah,
man.
Because that feeling of success only lasts. It's a very short-term thing. Yeah. That when you feel successful about something, it's like, okay, now what's next? You only stew on the success so long. It's very short, and then you're moving on. Yeah. But something that you feel is a negative experience, you harp on, and it keeps you, prevents you from. Sometimes it's bad. It's that smoke, and it suffocates you. But having that reminder, smelling that smoke every once in a while is a good thing. That me, regaining that, going up to 225 and feeling like, oh no, I'm headed down that direction again. Yeah, man. Is a good reminder of,
Yeah, that's true, man. I agree with you on that. It's like, looking back on, you know, where you failed in life, it's kind of,
Mhm.
it gives you encouragement for the future because you realize that you learned that lesson already and maybe you won't have to repeat it. And even if you do repeat it, you'll know that things will turn out okay.
Well, now's the time for especially you to fail. Like now's the time for you don't have like family, kids, you're young. Like now's the time to make all those, you know, maybe bold and risky moves, maybe fail a couple times to learn things and get to a higher success. You know, if you just go into something and you're successful right away, you know, that's where maybe it creates some arrogancy and you don't absorb.
That's a good point.
You know, whereas if you're failing, it's kind of keeps you level-headed, humble about the whole thing, and it might benefit you in the long run.
Yeah.
That's why I was recently talking to somebody about that. If something could make how I was feeling better, I really wouldn't want it to, because for that short-term moment, I would feel better, but in the long run, it would hurt me.
Yeah.
Because that whole self-reflecting afterwards and everything wouldn't be there because it would be this easy fix.
Yeah. You know, I mean, well, let me ask you this. Do you think that the dynamic, you know, the fact that our personalities are so dynamic is kind of what makes people kind of beautiful? Because I kind of think to myself, you know, part of the reason I'm not conscientious is because of how high in neuroticism I am. You know, my propensity towards negative emotion gets me so up in my head that I'm not able to focus on working. And so I almost kind of wish I could take some of my neuroticism and put it into my conscientiousness. But like, then I kind of step back and I'm like, but, you know, maybe my high neuroticism, like wearing my heart on my sleeves and being a highly emotional person is kind of like a good thing, you know, and maybe that's part of what people like about me. You know, maybe it makes me more relatable.
Oh, definitely. But what do you like about you? You know, like what do you want?
That's what matters,
right?
Because
people are gonna like it if you like you, like, right? I think that accepting yourself is the first step.
I think I should be, though. I think I should be more conscientious and less neurotic.
Well, I think you're looking at it in a great way. You're looking at like a bank account. Like you said, you want to take some of this and move it over here. Yeah. And that's perfect. But it's not going to happen overnight, right?
Oh, no,
it takes a few days of processing those bank transactions for you, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't know. I think, I mean, for you, how's your neuroticism, man? Do you think that you like have a high propensity for negative emotion and that's holding you back in some ways?
100%.
Really?
Like more negative self-talk than positive self-talk.
Yeah.
More thinking that smoke, like suffocating, like
man.
More thinking about the failures than the successes. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, man, and that's what I've really enjoyed about this embrace of change that I've been feeling lately is because I know that I'm always going to look back, you know, with a smile on my face on the past. Then I know that in the moment when I'm miserable because, you know, of my high neuroticism on an objective view. But if you break into that a little bit more, if you dissect it a little bit more, why are we miserable? Well, we've brought up a few things today. We make faulty, unnecessary predictions about how we're like falling down a slippery slope and how we're going to turn into a drug addict and how our life is falling apart. We have no right to make that prediction in this moment. B, like, we're just, you know, probably comparing ourselves to a bunch of social standards and things that, you know, you see successful about other people. And because you're allowing your analysis of another person's virtues to turn into a hatred of your own flaws and virtues. And so if you take that and realize that, you know, what you're feeling in the moment because of the current, you know, struggles you're going through is just a little ripple in time, then you know that whatever decision you make, whatever change you make in your life, it's like, it's kind of a beautiful thing, you know?
Right.
Like if I quit personal training right now, which I'm not going to do that just because I don't want to screw someone over. I don't want to screw my boss over, and I still am enjoying it and stuff like that. But even if I did, you know, ignoring all the, you know, fact about the morality of it and all that, you know, if I just quit and like got a random new job, like everything would be all right, and I would learn a lot from that new experience, and I could still find some way to make it for the best possible good.
Right. Yeah, you could always make the best out of anything, right? Like
Yeah.
it's all about what you make it.
Yeah.
And that's a lot. You said something at the beginning there of like a false sense of reality is what I got out of it, is that like that you think you're falling down this hole and you just push yourself.
You make a false prediction.
Like that, like you were surprised that I was going through something when I thought it was like, I thought, you know, like you think that, man, I like, you're judging yourself on how you look to others. You're like, I probably look like I'm just falling apart to everyone else when really no one is even, right?
Nobody
like,
even noticed anything.
Right,
Man.
right. So that's just indirect, but that I was literally pushing myself deeper into the hole.
But then again, I didn't even see you around, so I was kind of a little bit worried because I was like, what's even happening? What's he even doing nowadays?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking this whole time. I was like, what is Zach doing nowadays? I haven't seen him in forever. I figured you were just hanging out with Grace all the time.
No. Not that I mean, she moved. Like,
was I not supposed to bring her name up? Is that all right?
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Just no social security numbers.
Okay. But, dude, you do that too, though. You get up in your head about shit.
Mm-hmm.
I do that too, man. But nobody really noticed.
You're overthinking it, right? You're overthinking your depression, which just like pushes you.
Oh, it makes it so much worse, man.
Yeah.
Dude, why don't you bring up something, man? I feel like I've just been kind of like bringing us down this.
I know you. Sorry to interrupt. What were you gonna say? Something? I just got excited.
Go ahead and talk about something.
Well, I know you said that Daniel got you into personal training, but like, what got you, like, besides Daniel, there had to be something else. Did you feel like you could help people? Because that's kind of where I came from. I was like, well, I've done this before. I could like help somebody else do it.
Well, you know, I kind of like at the time a lot of it was Athlean X. And Athlean X is still a big inspiration for me. Do you know Athlean X?
No.
Jeff Cavalier?
Okay, that sounds familiar. That name sounds familiar.
He's a physical therapist. He does YouTube videos about working out and stuff.
I'm sure I've watched him. And
yeah. And it was kind of like I was working out a lot at the time, and you know, I figured like, oh, I'm a pretty social guy, and I really like talking to people and getting to know people and like kind of trying to, you know, help them. So this is kind of like a good thing I could do. It'll allow me to help people. It's in something I'm interested in. And then I really got interested in the science. See, this is like where the openness comes in, like that high intellect, high intelligence part. I got extremely interested in the way the muscles work and stuff, and like the line of pull, like the way that the different muscle fibers are pointed in different directions, and just how the body works mechanically. And
you're a very small picture. You get down to the fine details. I like that. I respect that. Go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, no, that's it. Like that's the main thing, man.
Okay.
How about you, man? Like what inspired you mostly? Just because you wanted to kind of pass on what you learned about yourself?
Yeah, and I was just recently talking about this too. Is I also think it was, if I'm in the field, if I'm doing, it keeps me from backtracking, and it keeps me on my goals too, right? Like if you submerge yourself,
Keeps you accountable.
Exactly.
That's funny, dude. I'm going to be honest with you about something. Ever since I became a personal trainer, this is another reason I've been kicking myself so much ever since I got this job. I have been so inconsistent about working out, dude, that I don't even feel like I deserve the title of being a personal trainer.
And that definitely, right before I became a personal trainer, I was working out more than I ever have before.
Same here, man.
Yeah.
Before I became a personal trainer, I was like lifting a lot, man.
But I don't know if it just like wears you down, especially at the start there, where it's like being at work all day and you're doing that, and then just coming home and it's the last thing you want to, like if you're on the computer all day at work, you're probably not going to want to go home and hop on the computer, right?
Yeah, I mean, because that's kind of how it was for me. Like after I had a client and stuff, it just, the last thing I want to do now, like after watching someone lift for the last couple hours, I really don't want to go lift. And
You gotta like recreate yourself and find that time for you though, right?
Yeah.
You can't.
And like that's kind of the other reason I'm getting rid of the mornings, because like that shitty circadian rhythm and waking up really early, like that's another thing. I would usually work out at night. I was like a night workout guy.
Does that keep you up? Did that keep you up? Did that keep you up ever? Keep you from sleeping?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I always slept like a baby. Like after, I don't know. I just like to work out at night. In the morning, like, dude, every time I've like tried to work out after boot camp or early in the morning, I just felt sick.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why, but I just always feel sick in the morning. Like early in the morning, I just feel
nauseous.
I feel nauseous. Yeah. I feel like crap. Dude.
Haven't really ate that day, you know, right? Like,
I don't know why, but just the mornings are so bad. I just feel at night. I feel like good this weird vitality come on. It's I don't know. I almost think there's like something spiritual about it or something, dude. Because it honestly doesn't make sense to me why I feel like so shitty and unmotivated in the morning, but at night so ready to get shit done and work out and be a beast.
Well, it could be summed up to personality, but what is the science? Like, is it spirituality? Like, what is the science behind why some people are night people and some people are morning people and some people, you know, take naps and some people can only get 4 hours of sleep for 20 years every night and be perfectly fine?
I have no idea.
I mean, there's some science there with the genetics, I guess.
I don't know. This is a weird, loose, assumption that I've made lately. Like, but it's just a guess. Is people who are high in openness are night owls, and people who are high in conscientiousness are morning, people. Because
they're structured, just naturally.
Because they're structured.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's a correlation there.
Yeah, that sounds like there's at least some anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
Right, when you look at people.
Yeah, I mean, is that true for you? Are you a night person?
Oh, yes, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And I love being up early once I'm up. Like, I love being up before the sunset, seeing that sunrise.
I love seeing the sunrise, man. Yeah. But on my own terms.
So I was going to ask you that. If it was something that, meditation. Like, what if you woke up every morning at 5 o'clock for meditation? That would probably be a different feeling, right? Because you would feel like you're getting something, like more.
Well, it would feel like on my own creative, like spectrum as a human being who's seeking self-development, I'm making the cognizant choice by my own will, to make this choice of self-improvement. If a job is telling me, this is an aspect of low conscientiousness. If a job is telling me that I have to wake up and it's against my will, then it's miserable. But I was actually thinking about waking up at 6 still.
Nice.
And waking up at 6 to try working out in the morning, or like meditating or stretching in the morning or something.
And I am even less of a morning workout person. I like to work out in the middle of the day when I'm
noon
kind of up and everything. But working out in the morning is so. You start your day like that, and it just feels like a downhill roll from there. Sometimes when you're waiting for that 3 o'clock in the afternoon workout, it feels like an uphill battle all day. You finally get in there, and you bring in your, sometimes stress is good to relieve during a workout, but it affects the pleasure of your workout if your day, you can bring your day into your workout. Whereas like if you work out to start the morning, man, it's so freeing and releasing, and you feel so productive just to start the day. You feel like, it's one thing knocked out. You could check that off immediately.
You feel like accomplished to at the very beginning of the day.
And you have the most energy, but you just got to wake your body up properly. You can't just jump into it.
Fair enough.
I get guilty when I eat things. Like I try to keep like an 80-20 rule, the 80%, 20%, where you 80% healthy and then 20% you kind of let yourself, slack off with eating. But I get real guilty, feel real guilt about when I do eat those off meals. And I'm wondering, is that like your guilt of not waking up early? Like you wanting to be this person that does wake up early on your own, and you bring up your own terms and everything. Could you wake up? Or it sounds like you already thought it through too, but you're thinking about staying up or waking up at 6 still. Waking up early still and doing what you want, working out, meditating, whatever it may be, and then you're not feeling the guilt of not waking up early, and you're feeling like you're accomplishing something and bettering yourself, like getting that self-reflection to start your day.
That would help a lot, man. That would help me as a person a lot.
What do you think about guilt?
Guilt?
Yeah.
Oh, frick, man. Guilt. I feel a lot of guilt for a lot of things all the time. I feel guilt. Probably that's one of my most common emotions is guilt.
But and a healthy balance is always the case for all these emotions we're talking about. But don't you think it's a good thing to have?
It is because people who are likely to feel guilt, it shows that they have a conscience and they have morals and they have a standards of how to live properly in the world. People that aren't guilty about anything, they just don't really have very good standards about how to live properly in the world. It's almost like they don't have an intrinsic value structure.
Okay.
They don't steal because society tells them if they steal they're gonna get in trouble, or because society says that. And then there's people who, if they stole, felt guilty. That's not because of what society tells them. It's because they have an intrinsic value structure, an intrinsic moral value structure, and so I think guilt is an indicator of virtue in some ways.
That's a good explanation. I like that.
But not always.
Right.
Because like some people just always feel guilty but never actually change.
Oh, that's self-destructive right there. Like,
yeah, dude, that's been the fucking main thing about my nosedive lately.
Okay.
That's been part of my nosedive. It's like I feel guilty for things like not working out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I continue not to work out.
Right.
Or I feel guilty about not getting my work done. And then I continue not to get my work done. And it becomes so self-deprecating and so destructive and so toxic for me that last week was really, it was like kind of the ending point where I just ended up realizing this can't go on anymore. And so I'm going to have to take any steps that I can to start reworking my existence so that this pattern of behavior doesn't continue, because obviously I can no longer rely on my willpower. My willpower has failed me at this point, and I'm not gonna lie about that. It's just sometimes your willpower fails you. Sometimes you try to improve through sheer will alone, but you just fail and you fall deeper into the pit of despair. And sometimes it's good to cut. I think this is what I've realized lately is sometimes it's good to cut your losses, realize that you don't have infinite willpower and that you're just a human being, and that instead you should try to, substantiate yourself through other means.
Double down on your strengths.
Double down on your strengths. And that's kind of, I like that you keep using that use of words, because that kind of re-solidified this knowledge. And so
good. Yeah, you can't fight an uphill battle. It's easier to turn around and just roll the rock down the hill and let it gain the moment, right? Than trying to push that rock
and then
up the hill.
Because I think this week I'm gonna start just focusing on incremental change.
Dude, that's perfect. One step at a time.
One of the things I have been doing lately, like on a consistent daily basis that I would like to be doing, is journaling, man.
Yes.
Dude.
Yep.
Because journaling is such an important creative act for me.
Like, even if you don't go back and read it, which I probably won't, like we talked about with notes and stuff, I probably won't, but it's different than if you're just thinking it. It's putting those words on paper, right?
Yeah, man. But like honestly, I'm such a nostalgic person that sometimes I will go back and read it. Right. Yeah, dude, and the journal's so good for me as a creative person because for honestly, what the journal is to me is like an outlet of daily creativity. It's a way to creatively analyze how certain things help my workflow. I kind of perform my own little pseudo studies with it. It's a way that I analyze all kinds of things. Like sometimes I used to do this thing in my journal where I will listen to a song that I'm listening to a lot at the time. And so the emotions of that song will determine what I draw.
Yeah. So
I draw something in accordance to that song, and it's like this beautiful intertangling of visual and auditory art that it's so not journaling recently that hasn't been good for me either. So I need to really start. I think that's the first main incremental change I'm going to start doing is
I'm going to join you on that one.
Yeah, start journaling every day.
And I've said, I could have many people attest to me saying that in the past few months of like journaling's so important, and I've never really done it,
I'm going to do it every morning. This is going to be my goal for the week is Now that I'm not waking up early for work, I'm going to wake up a little bit earlier than I need to.
Spend some you time.
Just to spend some time on my journaling.
Yeah. And I think the journal is a real key there to document and work through feelings.
Oh, yeah.
And every time, and it makes it easier over time. Like even if you don't journal, just like the my struggle with weight and stuff, and like getting stressed out about it or worried, concerned, right? Is a lot easier every time you go through it.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time, like it's just like lifting weights. It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard at first, gets easier after.
Yes. If it keeps getting harder, you're getting stronger, right? Like if you're doing it right, you should be adding like over time, incremental add-ons to lift more weight, to get more done, do more work. And that's I think a good analogy for what you're talking about.
Yeah, it is. Working out is actually a great analogy for a lot of things.
Well, it's so natural, and we don't get that hunter-gatherer type of stuff anymore, and so you got to seek it out yourself.
Yeah.
We become too civilized in some senses.
Oh yeah, we do, man. That's a true thing. That's actually very true. Because like when you become so civilized, you become disconnected from the earth.
I remember when I first started working out before, how I thought about it was I gotta hunt to eat.
Yeah,
like I gotta go. The first thing I did in the morning, I might have had a small snack, but I would head to the gym, and it was, gotta put in the work.
You've got to
catch
put in
the
the
food.
work, and yeah, that's a good point, man. And I do that type of thing too, where you kind of like find interesting ways to realize why things are important. Like for me, I do that with Kung Fu sometimes, because at the end of the day, at the end of a Tuesday, it's like sometimes I don't really want to go, but then I'm like, but dude, I need to do Kung Fu. It's not just because it's a creative outlet for me and it's important for me to have this hobby for A, B, and C reasons. It's because me doing Kung Fu right now could potentially save my family's life.
Yes.
20 years from now.
And that's just, I think about that with jiu-jitsu. I haven't been too deep into it yet, and I've had to take a break, but I'm wanting to get into it once everything settles down. But that's exactly what drove me there was, and I think it's confidence. That's what everything is. Like the fitness and, being healthy and working, knowing how to defend yourself, protection, and your family. I think that's key. There's one guy, I know I'm spacing on a lot of names here. One guy, I want to say he's military, and every month he takes his family's weight. He has a wife and a few kids. I want to say 3 kids, and they're growing. So every month he has to take weight, and whatever that number comes out to, he goes down to the football field. He has his farmer carry bars, and he loads them up with however much his family weighed that day, and he does this once a month. And he does, I want to say it's just like one sprint. He times it how far he can just get that weight across to the football field, and his whole purpose of that is someday his family may be trapped in a fire or this or that, whatever the worst case scenario, and he wants to be able to carry everyone out of that situation.
Wow.
So and he's dead serious in that sense, and it is very serious. Like that could happen. The chances are low, but you'd rather be prepared, right?
Rather be prepared.
Like in that moment if a house catches on fire, he's not going to be able to go train to save them. Like you have to do that. That's that long-term consistency.
Yeah, man.
For a lifetime. So what are your, real quick, I know I'm going way back, but to the saunas, I think they're beneficial for people that may have like chronic, arthritis, something that prevents them from working out. Maybe they're just too overweight and nothing's comfortable for them. They can't lift. I think saunas are a good place to start because at the minimum it heightens your heart rate. Like being in that environment. Yeah. It makes the body evolve. Yeah. To stressful situations. Also, you lose water weight and things like that. That we can make arguments for fat burning and stuff too, but you're going to lose some weight and that could help benefit you. It's good for inflammation too.
It'll probably be good for me, man. I've been having back issues lately.
Well, they say it's good for the mind. They say it's good for the, and I'm not aware, I can't even think about the science behind it right now, but.
We got to hit the sauna today, man.
We're going after this, yeah? Do you have time?
Yeah, okay. I have time, man.
Real quick. What? So, tell me about your goals. Like, where do you see where do you see Elvis? Like, let's start short term.
Ooh,
You already
short-term.
talked about what you're gonna do this week. You're gonna start journaling. So that's a real short term goal.
Short-term goal.
What about the next few months out?
The next few months? Okay. At the end of the month, my high hopes for goals are I'm gonna have journaled every single day that month. I'm gonna be doing cardio consistently and like weightlifting on a more consistent basis too, not just doing like these shitty half-assed like 15 to 30 minute workouts in between clients at the gym at High Desert. And I'm gonna start trying to like get back into practicing my sax consistently.
Oh yeah, dude, you are musically inclined like no other.
Oh, thanks, man.
That's something that differs between us. Like we could relate on a lot of levels, but
Yeah.
musically, you got to double down on that, dude.
Oh, I need to double down on that, man.
You still going to open mics?
Yeah.
When's the next one?
Well, that's funny because it was going to be on Saturday, but that's when Rayanne's thing is. So I'm going to try to get River and all them to, instead move the open mic night and all the people that were going to play at open mic to Rayanne's thing. So I'll be playing at that thing.
Okay.
Hey, you should come, man.
What time?
It's on Flex Saturday.
Okay.
I don't remember what time, but I'll send you a thing on Facebook.
So next Saturday.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that'll work, I think.
Yeah.
What's today? September.
Today's
It's going to be
I
October.
don't know, man.
Actually, I'm going to be out of town.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
But I need, that's why I'm asking these questions. I need to make it to one of those.
Okay, yeah, I'll tell you when the next one is.
I've heard you play a couple times live, but not
Oh,
at
you
open
have?
mic. Yeah. I want to say you brought something into Starbucks before. And I watch all your videos and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
No, you'll have to teach me a couple of things.
Oh, yeah?
What instruments do you play? Sax?
Sax, that's it.
Yeah?
I play a little bit of guitar.
Okay.
I can play Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. That's it.
That's all you need.
And like an original. Dude, that's a great song.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great song, man. But how about you, man? What's your musical thing?
I like listening to music, and I like all music.
Oh, yeah.
I like mainly rap and probably some like punk rock. I would
Punk
describe.
rock?
But country gets thrown in there every now and again.
Yeah?
Yeah. But I'm like very musically across the board open.
Yeah.
Like you said, like
Open.
I've had phases of reggae.
Oh, yeah.
Phases of I just gone through some phases, so I always keep those, and they come. Songs come up, and you end up listening to them again. I would just say, just random.
Yeah, man. Just go back and listen again. Just to.
I'm the type that if I find a song that I like, I'll listen to it for like a month straight.
I will listen to it. I know, right, man? Dude, and that's the beautiful thing about that is when you go back and listen to that song, it becomes associated with a whole time of your life.
Yeah.
It becomes associated with a set of memories, and it's just like sometimes that's not always, good memories.
Right.
Like there's some songs that I almost can't listen to because it'll bring up like sad memories.
I think everyone has those.
Yeah, man. I have one called Drift by David Sanborn.
Okay.
It's just an instrumental, but the tones, it's like it's a sad, very sad song, man.
You kind of just hit on something. We were talking about indie before
Indie rock?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
man, I
And
love indie rock.
yesterday when I was listening to it, I actually brought it up with somebody that I like indie rock, and the sound is so
So chill. And
yeah, it's so relaxing, so chill, and about happy memories most of the time. Like if you listen to the contents of it, just like in general, at least the popular indie songs, the message is about a happy memory oftentimes, but it makes me so sad because I don't know if it's the tone or the way that I think about memories, and that happy times are in the past.
Yeah.
And so do you ever get sad over?
I do.
Okay.
It does make me sad because it's like that was a beautiful time and now it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never have that back again. Ever again, because it's that just can't be replicated. And the conditions of that time were completely unique to that time and that stage of my life.
And you feel like you can't remember it fully.
Yeah.
Like you remember being there and remember this and that.
It's just a ripple in the past, man.
Yeah.
And that's why I loved vlogging, one of my favorite creative endeavors that I ever embarked on was vlogging, because
It's permanent. It's a permanent.
like I can always go back and rewatch it, dude. Like
Yeah.
Crazy Hawk's Landing series. Shout out to that.
Is that
It was a vlogging series that I did with my friend John when we camped out on Lake Isabella.
okay? Where can people find that?
My other YouTube channel, Rick and
Okay.
Welvis.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, man. What are
That-
your goals, man? Tell me
Well-
about your goals.
Something you just made me think about something real quick that
Yeah,
I
go
thought
ahead.
about before was when we were talking about success and failure and all that, and the smoke. To kind of just summing up a lot of the things that we've been talking about is when I'll forget about successes a lot. Like I'll see a picture of something or like a trophy or something, and it's almost I'm like I don't even remember. It's like, oh, that was me. Like that happened, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But when I never forget the failure, like the negative thing, and I still today identify as that's me. Like I am that person that did that failed. But when I look at successes, a lot of times I forget about them.
Yeah,
Do
you
you-
don't even want to give yourself credit for them.
Yeah. Do you have some?
I do that same thing, man.
Okay.
I was talking to my friend Josh Rojas, man, really great friend of mine. He was telling me I was having like this depressed moment, and I was like kind of bitching and moaning about how much of a failure I am.
Yep.
And then he like brought up this stuff. He's like, dude, that personal training thing, you know, even if you don't want to do it forever, even if it's not, you know, what you thought it would be completely, you did that, man.
Right.
You did that. You accomplished that. I didn't do that. How many people did that? And it's just kind of made me realize that same thing. It's like,
Well, and that experience changes who you are. You brought that up at some point throughout this podcast, that all your some of your experiences, and every
Yeah.
time you do something, it's changing your perception.
yeah, for sure, man. So you have that too, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when I came into personal training, I thought it was a career, which I
Mhm.
think some people can make it a career. Like
More
you're
of a
talking
side
about.
hustle, man.
Yeah. Like, but some people can make a career. Like
But
Daniel,
you'd
I
have
think
to
is,
be a highly industrious person.
yeah.
You'd have to be so good at like grinding and marketing
Mhm.
yourself,
Right.
and you'd have to, and those are all qualities
finding
of
a niche.
industriousness, man.
Yeah.
And finding a niche.
Yeah. But it's definitely a side hustle. I think it's definitely something that you could do like a lot of people could do on the side, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people can, man. I plan on doing it as a side thing. Because, like, you know, the thing about doing it full time, too, is,
Burnout.
yeah, burnout. You don't want to do it all the time. And there's some clients you just wouldn't, you know, you'd rather not train.
Well, it's like being in a relationship.
Yeah, there's just
So
some
if-
relationships you don't want to be in, you know?
And that dynamic, you know, it's one-on-one too. It's a little bit different than if you don't like a job that you go to. That's a desk job, you know?
Yeah, it's like you have to go be around a person you don't want to be around.
Yeah. Or you just don't mesh well with. Or
Or mesh well with. And that's, yeah, man. So it's like, but then there's the clients that
Inspire you.
yeah, and you like, you go hang out with them and for that hour, and that hour like makes your day.
Right.
Because not just because of the personal relationship you have with them and just talking to them as a human being, but it's almost like, and this is a word that's been thrown around in my social sphere of life lately, is the word energy.
Mm.
Like, do you get this thing where being around some people will literally like suck the life out of you? Like, you'll feel like exhausted after they leave.
I constantly think about Newton's laws in the form of like almost like spiritual energy.
Mm-hmm.
Like something like energy, the whole acted upon, right? All the Newton's three laws.
Yeah.
Something will not move unless acted upon. I know I'm butchering it right now.
An
Blanking.
object in motion
Will
tends
stay
to stay
in motion. Yeah, that same thing. The more you do, the more you do.
Yeah.
An object in motion tends to stay in motion, and then an object in motion will stay in motion unless equal or greater force is applied to it.
Yeah.
So
In opposite direction.
Yes, and that in opposite direction is that energy, that negative energy pushing you.
Wow.
You know.
So you think that these people that kind of drain you of your energy, it's almost like on a metaphysical level because of the way their brains are geared and the way that the directions they're headed in life and the types of perceptions they have are just so contrary to your own that you're headed, full steam ahead in one direction. They're headed full steam ahead in the opposite direction. And so coming into contact with them, it makes you both hit a blind.
Right. And so, that's a way to,
And maybe maybe having clients like that, maybe it's for the better good of both of them, the client and you, to not train them anymore.
Having people in your life like that. Having people in your life in general.
There's some people you should just let go of, man.
Right. But there's also you also want some opposition in your life. You want to see that other side. And
sometimes that's really good for you, man.
Yeah. It changes your perspective.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times we think that, you want to talk about the all-seeing eye or something. We'll get into where we think that something's so certainly one way. And then it takes somebody that you highly respect. Like the whole thing of, if you're walking down the street and some random person walks up to you and tells you they don't like your hair, how much does that mean to you compared to if, like this morning when I said, "Hey Elvis, I liked your hair," like what, like, the difference there? Like if I said, "Hey Elvis, I don't like your hair," like this, or like if a brother or
probably would have,
you would take it more to heart, right? Like you would take, if you respect it, if you know the person, if it's a brother or a relative of some sort that tells you, "Hey man, like blank, like blah blah blah," you're gonna take blah 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 more to heart than if that random person walking down the street.
That's true, man, for sure. Did I cut you off there?
No, not at all.
Okay,
not at all.
That's man. That's a good point. That's an interesting thing too. But that's my whole perspective on training too. It's like for the clients that you enjoy, it's an amazing job, But for the clients you don't enjoy, it's a pretty miserable job, And I would honestly much rather be flipping burgers at some burger stand than to be around someone that I don't enjoy being around for an hour.
I hate to be that old person that's like, there's those people everywhere, but that's kind of like, you may be flipping burgers and you're working with those same people.
Yeah,
right?
But at least then you're occupied with someone. You're not just sitting there staring at them, know? Like that, it's just sitting there staring at a person that you don't want to be with, that you can't even talk to. It's just...
For me, the hardest part is consistent like I wear my emotions on my sleeve.
Yeah.
So kind of getting at what you're saying is, I also, because of that, I also absorb a lot of emotion too. I absorb their energy, like you're saying.
Me too,
affects you. But I also wear my emotions on my sleeve, and if I'm in a bad mood, it's very it's a struggle. Like you don't want to affect their experience or their workout or whatever.
True.
So that's one of the hardest parts for me, is being always on, and
Yeah, dude, I've had some really off days where I've come to like blast the class I instruct, and I've just had such a fucking bad attitude, and
that was my struggle with classes.
So
that's the difference between classes and individual. Like if you're off, you feel bad, and it's a lot easier for you to adjust your energy for one person. But when it's a group of people, that guilt of you being in a bad mood or that distraction in your mind, whatever it may be, is exponential, because now you got 8 people staring at you. And I've done it before. In speech class, I did it a couple times, and in front of fitness classes, what I did at the beginning of the podcast. For some reason, if I think about people listening to me, and it hasn't been it's a fairly recent thing within adulthood. It wasn't a thing when I was a child. When I'm in front of people speaking, and I realize, like, what happened just then was, I realized the microphone in front of me and it going out into the ether and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I just froze.
Yeah.
Everything that I was thinking about, and my brain just went blank. It was meditative. It was a very meditative experience.
I could tell you just went blank. I was
you were looking. Elvis was looking around.
Zach just short circuited. I was like,
Did
someone just pull up in the driveway?
No, that's exactly. It just,
That's crazy, man.
But it's worse when it's in front of a group of class. If you go blank, it's hard. Like I went blank with you, and I didn't really explain it. But with a client, I could be like, "Give me a second,"
Yeah.
But
I know what you mean, man. It's tough.
I think that's the introvert part, though.
Oh yeah,
just
probably.
Scared. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's totally introvert stuff, man. Dude. this podcast is getting kind of long. But
Yeah.
there's one more topic that I want to go over, unless there's something else you want to talk about. I'm cool continuing recording, but I wanted to talk a little bit about relationships, man.
Let's do it.
Like, now that, this is a good transition from clients to relationships, because like I've been seeking like a romantic relationship for a while now. Failing at it.
With a certain individual or just
in general, I've just been looking for one. I've tried seeking for one in the wrong place a couple times, and
now I'm sure you have analyzed this. What makes you? What do you think makes you? Why are you seeking that?
Why am I seeking it?
That social validation. That, like, what is it? Is it personal validation? Identity?
Man, it's just I'm at this part of my life where because I've for the last couple of years I've been very, very intertwined in a social network of like a bunch of different friends, and like after a while hanging out with all those different friends, it just kind of becomes like a tiring responsibility, because you feel very responsible to want to be there for them all the time.
Mm-hmm. Be a good friend.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like in this perspective where I don't really have that kind of energy to do that type of thing anymore, and I mostly just want to focus on myself. I'm becoming more introverted, less like outwardly social, and like, but having like a girl there to just kind of go through life with, to share your life with, just one person, to be there for you in your hard times, like, it just sounds like something that I would really like to have right now. You know what I mean?
It sounds like, I keep using analogies, but it sounds like you're going from classes to personal training. The responsibility of a group of people compared to the responsibility of a single person.
Yeah.
And then you share all those memories and stuff like that with that person, and they're there for you, like you're saying.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess to refine the question even more is, do you think that I should just focus on myself more first?
That was the first thing I thought of.
I shouldn't even try to get a relationship?
Dude, it'll come when you least, like people say all the time, it happens when you least expect it. But when you're focused on yourself, you're going to better yourself for yourself and that person. Whoever
they come.
Yeah,
they
there's
might
some.
come.
Yeah. Do you say might?
Yeah, who knows?
No, they'll come. You're gonna you're a good, handsome-looking guy. You're very thoughtful, philosophical. I mean, if you just, you don't. I don't know how you go about like approaching women and all, but if you just go up to them and talk to them, Elvis, like as Elvis, you should have no issue. And them not seeking out a relationship with you is not on you. Like, they could be in a point in their life where they're trying to better themselves or this or that, but you could potentially get a friend there. But yeah, just being you, I think any girl would be interested if you just be Elvis. That's it.
Yeah,
that's all you got to do.
I think I've been obsessing with the notion of getting a relationship too much lately.
Or your ego, bro. I obviously have never been there, but I imagine there's some ego there when you do, like, you want to come off a certain way. You want to present yourself as a certain way.
Yeah, self-conscious, like.
Right.
I guess I do that a little bit. I'm pretty genuine with people. I'm pretty genuine with people for the most part.
Okay, yeah, I might have been speaking out of turn there, because that's one of your better, most known qualities, is that you are straightforward as it gets, I would say.
But, I mean, even if that's true, that's a good quality of mine, it's still there, man. Like me being someone that just trying to look like something that I'm not exactly completely that, that's true. I do that. I totally do that, man.
Well, it's the pressures and the rejection, the potential rejection, right? That changes.
Well, it's almost like it feels like you have to be a certain way to get a relationship.
What is that identity to you? Like, what way?
A very apathetic male who doesn't actually care, who's just basically
That's
you
all
know,
too common, right?
puts as least amount of effort into it as much. Those are the guys that get girlfriends. Like,
What's that saying that the bad guys always win or the good guys always lose? What is it?
yeah, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
So it feels like, I don't know. It feels like if I'm my genuine self, that's pretty much mostly failed almost every single time. So like, it's almost like I can't be my genuine self. Like, because over text, it's just too complicated. Like, I fucking hate the digital world, man. It's just like, there's
yeah, I
texting
agree.
is not a real, like, I wish it was like 20 years ago where I could just call. Like, calling is so much more my thing, you know? Like, I don't know. So I get, you know, usually kind of fuck shit up over the text thing.
Yeah. When I was pretty young, I was very into the idea that I was born in the wrong time and that I was, you know, even the 50s would have been a better time for me. But now, you know.
I feel like I was kind of born in the wrong time.
Yeah, I could relate.
Not, I don't know.
You should look at yourself as like you're being slow cooked, right? Like when you slowly cook something, it tastes better and it's like tender and it just comes out like that product comes out better. So just slow cook yourself. Like don't rush it. Don't incremental steps. Like do incremental.
You mean with the girl?
Yeah, but like focus on yourself. You're talking about like
Okay.
should I just just focus on yourself and just don't worry about, you know, microwaving yourself and cooking yourself so quick and the product being done. Like take the time and do what you're doing. You're very mindful of everything going on.
Yeah,
probably too much.
I think you're right. Definitely that's true.
A lot of the problems that we're talking about where they root from for
just
both of us.
overthinking stuff.
Yeah.
Jumping to some conclusion that's not actually true, but you convince yourself that you're falling down the slippery slope.
Like what's the pressure of getting a girl and being in a relationship?
There is no pressure. I just really want one. I think
you want the companionship.
I want that companionship. Yeah. You know, I want the physical touch and the romance and that kind of thing. And you know
That's
what I mean?
understandable.
I mean, that's understandable. That's just an honest thing that I want. Like,
no, what do you do to seek that out? I know you. I hope we could delete this if I'm saying too much, but
no, it's fine.
I know you went up to a girl at Starbucks recently. Like, what else do you do? What other environments are you putting yourself in besides COSO, Starbucks, and HGF?
None. There's no other environment. Is there?
Like,
I thought those were the only environments in Ridgecrest.
I was just thinking there's not much else.
I mean, I guess there's the bars, but
yeah, that's no good.
That doesn't work, does it?
You're not gonna meet a good companion.
Does that
there.
actually work there? I mean, does that actually work?
If you well, what do you look for in a girl? Like, you probably don't want despair.
No, I guess not. Probably not.
Not that everyone that goes to a bar is desperate, but you know, like, I was kind of thinking that. What are your values? Like, what are you looking for in that companion?
Dude, the most important one, it's honesty, man.
Yeah.
Like someone that values the truth, you know, like, and the actual truth, like, not someone who's afraid to hurt other people's feelings, so they just constantly play the white lie excuse. Right. Like, to me, there's almost no such thing as a white lie. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say no such thing, but I really think people play that card way, way too much because they're afraid of confronting their own. They're just afraid of confronting in general. They're just afraid of. So that's an important one. It's the truth. People that don't communicate with honesty, it's like, you know, I've just been, you know, mind fucked by that too much. And I don't want someone to crawl into my brain and fuck me up again.
That's no good. And there's been studies that show that lying changes the brain chemistry and how the brain, like, they could do actual MRIs and things like that and see how the brain's functioning. And telling a lie changes how you operate in other aspects of your life too.
Really?
Yeah. So
that's crazy, man.
But yeah, that should be a baseline, right? Like,
that's a baseline
minimum
You
honesty.
know, the other value is I would really like for it to be, I mean, this one's not an absolute necessity. It's fairly important to me though. Is I'd like it to be someone that I can have interesting conversations with. Like
compelling conversations.
Yeah, so it would probably compelling. I'm probably looking for someone who's higher in openness. you know,
And intelligence.
intelligence.
Yes.
Um,
So it sounds like the school's the right spot for you, and that's a good
Yeah.
place to meet people of your age. And do you ever approach anyone at school? Do you ever?
a couple times
Okay.
here and there, but I asked that one girl, but she had a boyfriend. I asked her to go on a date.
See, and that was my. So you okay? How many times have you ever done that before? With the other ones?
You know, here's what happens to me, man. Like I get something going, but then all of a sudden it has to transfer into becoming a texting based relationship.
Okay.
And just like getting them to like coordinate like meeting up with them is so hard. It seems like, because like it feels like if you say one wrong thing, or if you like if you just text something, like it's all of a sudden they just like are gonna flake on you, or like not actually meet up. So that's kind of what the last two things are kind of. I basically just have kind of like not really tried that hard, because I just felt like it was just going to be a constant flake fest of me building up hope, and then
You don't have to get into details, but when you say the wrong thing, is it expressing feelings?
it's not even always that. It's more like just like me offering times to meet up, and then like it starts out with them saying, "Okay, let's meet up. That'll be cool," and then I like try to find a time to meet up, and that's kind of where it ends.
Okay.
Like as if like me trying to like suggest open time slots was the thing that messed it up.
Well,
And it's like, if I can't even do that, what the fuck is?
It sounds
Yeah.
like they weren't high in openness, so that wouldn't be a good fit anyway.
Maybe,
Like it's meant to be that way, right?
man. I mean, how'd you get together with your girlfriend, if you don't mind me to ask, man?
The modern day solution or way, Instagram. Just messaged her. I saw her at the gym a few times.
Yeah, I mean that's what I've tried once.
Texting
lately.
based though, like you said, it starts in a texting based way. Right?
So how did it work? Did you just text her and then?
So I asked her, I asked her if she still went to, college and started talking about school, and then I eventually asked her if she wanted to go on a hike, just something kind of laid back. But I got to be honest, she was very not flaky, but like I sent her my number multiple times because I figured it would be easier
Yeah.
to text than to Instagram, like locations and such.
Yeah.
3 different times, and she has since told me that she never never texted me because she didn't know me that well, or wanted to get to know me. And it was that kind of putting yourself, kind of what you're describing, where you put yourself out there, and it's kind of where you're like, I was very open about, you were open about times, I was very open about
Yeah, and it's understandable, man, because like, and this is why I don't like hold it against the girls, like, maybe some of them, but most 9 times out of 10, it's like, it's kind of scary to be a woman, like,
oh, absolutely,
in this day and age, especially like just like men versus women,
right.
like especially like athletic fit men, like it's good for them to be very hesitant and very aware and like cautious about what kind of situation they're getting into, and it's a lot of times almost like subconscious, like it's a subconscious
right.
like self-defense mechanism to like
survival.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really understandable when like girls flake out and stuff, like if it's.
But, and I'm not saying that you aren't, but maybe just putting yourself in their shoes, and that may change what you text them.
Maybe.
Like maybe,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like what, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It turns into this thing where I guess I start to overthink texting, and it feels like no matter what I send is going to somehow be the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's just me, mind fucking myself. Maybe that's not actually like that at all. Maybe it just happens to be that these girls just changed their mind or something.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be a problem with you.
I don't know, I guess
have to be a problem with them, right?
I've just had some really bad luck over the last couple of years with like interactions that were really sour, and it just turned into me like being used by someone for attention and some self-esteem boost, and like they just kind of were stringing a carrot along in front of me to like I don't know why. Just because they wanted somebody for the intention, but they didn't actually want to have a real relationship with them or even a real friendship with them.
Do you think you take that experience and that smoke into the next situation?
Yeah, it's like permeated on me right now. It's like,
and in some way you assume that it's just going to happen again, like
yeah.
You're just waiting.
I think the last 2 interactions, that's what I've done, and that's why I haven't really tried very hard. Because I don't want to get duped again, man.
Yeah.
Like, because I know I'm really quick to get attached and really quick to, become invested in someone.
Yeah.
Because I see the good in people so fast. Like I just love people. I think everyone's got their own little, like everyone's got that spark of divinity, man. Everyone's got their own little beautiful thing about them, and so,
yes,
like,
sir.
I just really don't want to. I really don't want to get mind fucked again, and so I think you're right, man. I think what I'm gonna do is, instead of even worrying about that right now, I'm just gonna worry about myself. And
is there a way to put yourself out there without getting mind fucked if it results in that you realize that you're not identifying with that situation or that moment? I know it's so hard.
What's
and
your advice about that? Dude, I don't know.
I go back to every time you go through something, a feeling or whatnot, it's easier the next time.
Yeah.
Right. And really, I mean, it's like asking a girl out or something is a lot like baseball.
Mm-hmm.
In baseball, if you are successful at batting 3 times out of 10, you're in the Hall of Fame. You're one of the best players ever.
Yeah.
But you're failing like 30%. You're only successful 30% of the time. You're failing 70% of the time, and that's success.
That's fair enough. Dude.
And that's the same thing. Every time you go to approach a girl or whatever, you're taking a step to the plate,
taking a swing.
Yeah, and you're gonna fail, like, because it takes that dynamic. It takes them, like, you obviously like them if you're approaching them or you're interested in them. They have interested you in some way, but it takes them feeling that same way about you in that same way. Like
if they're not, then they're just not. So
and
that's a good point.
It sounds like every single one of them that you're talking about so far has been, they at least appreciated you and were interested in you as a friend, at least, right? Like,
or at least entertain the idea, but then change their mind or something.
And anything, yeah. I would say I've definitely been probably rejected more than accepted.
Yeah, so you used to have that kind of thing in high school and stuff?
Yeah, even
Even after high school?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you some stories
after this.
I got some. Oh man, some cruise ship stories.
Oh man, dude, I don't know, man. But anyway, that was a cool way to end it. I mean, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I just wanted to mention, because you said, and it just like alarms went off in my head. You mentioned the whole white lies or lying to people because you don't want to hurt their feelings, that type of thing. I was I struggle to tell people like truths that I think might hurt them or things like that.
It's hard. I struggle. I'm not completely truthful.
But you've taught me to, like, seeing you, how not that you're mean by any stretch of the imagination, but you tell us like straight up.
Really?
Yeah. Even like a few people at work have even brought that up. Like, yeah, Elvis is just like, very open. That the fact that you scored that, it makes sense because you're very open to conversation and open to, I would say, realistic. You're very realistic, but have this very in-depth view and reflection of a lot and just across life.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that, dude.
Well, I appreciate you. You have inspired me in many ways in that way, and podcasts and be more creative and put myself out there.
Yeah, man, you as well. Honestly, you've inspired me in a lot of ways, man. I don't know. I see you kind of like, you're always like seeking improvement, man. And like the way you like have been running and stuff lately, like, I don't know. Whenever I see someone like you, who's like constantly trying to like better themselves and like trying new things and like getting really into stuff, it's like a really refreshing thing. So, man, that's
what this like being human is all about, right? This being together, connection, and you are inspiring people and you don't even realize it. Like going
Yeah,
out on
dude.
those runs, I don't want to do it every time, and it's a struggle. But then maybe that inspires somebody else to do it, and you probably don't want to tell people the blunt truth every time, but you do. Like you're more the person that you'll say how it is, and that's like there's not enough of that in the world. Like there's too much sugarcoating.
Yeah.
And that's probably in the short term affects you because you tell yourself the blunt truth.
No,
But
yeah.
in the long run, you're self-improving. You're constantly seeking self-improvement. That's why you're
Yeah, man.
self-reflecting constantly.
Yeah, and I think that's the truth for you too, man. It's it's like, it's kind of funny how you said that you were so negative on yourself and that you were in a rut, because I always was inspired by you because you always seemed so positive at work, and like you seemed like you were just like always good at putting a smile on, and like I'm so bad at that, dude. I'm not like for me, you're either gonna get depressed, Elvis. And he's not really trying very hard to not seem depressed. He's just depressed.
It's a switch, right?
Or
It's
you're
either
gonna
on
be
or off.
happy. Like,
yeah.
I'm not good at faking a smile, man. I can't. I don't know why. It's just not good at it.
And I appreciate what you said about me about constantly seeking improvement, but there's a reason why like I'm like not constantly down in the dumps or anything, but constantly nitpicking at myself. And one of them is the way something that I've consciously made an effort for in the past few months, past year, is those type of things of not bringing what's going on at home or at school to work or vice versa, and being, I don't want to say more mature, but like just more I would maybe gritty, like more like not like what you were saying, when those times where thoughts enter your head and it's a neutral, you have a neutral,
judgmental.
yeah, and you just let it go, and just being able to, I think that's similar in being able to brush things off. And sometimes I would go into work and it would be a struggle to be there because I'm in this bad mood, and now it's like, oh man, now I have to work in this bad mood, blah blah blah. And now I'm viewing it more as, if I'm in a bad mood and I have to go to work, I get to go to work, and that distracts me from whatever's going on. If I'm in a bad mood and it's the time that I'm supposed to be running that day, and for whatever reason something put me in a bad mood, I used to think it ruined my run, or it ruined, like, my experience. I'm not in that free fun mood, but it's not, it's now you have an opportunity to go run or whatever, hike, and release of all of that, like use that,
Mm-hmm.
But when you're down in the dumps and depressed and stuff, it's hard to appreciate that. Like when I busted my toe, my immediate reaction was panic and just thinking that I just ruined a planned course that I had, when it really wasn't that big of a deal. And within an hour, I was in the shower just realizing, having an epiphany of, man, at least I have a toe to break or sprain or whatever,
Yeah, that's a good point, man. You could just not even have a foot, dude.
Right. You couldn't. Yeah, it could always be worse.
Yeah, that's a true statement, man. That's true.
I was riding my bike before this, and I was coming down from the college hill, and there was this one intersection where I let a few cars go, and then I started to go, and then this car came out, and I had checked every direction. This car came out of nowhere, and if he didn't stop, he would have hit me, but he stopped. And I was thinking, and my first thought was, oh, he's probably all ticked off. Like if I didn't see him there, but I probably cut him off or something. But then I was just appreciative of the whole situation, that he didn't, it could have been a lot worse. Even if he is pissed off at me, I don't care. He didn't. If he were to pull over and start screaming at me, I'd be like, hey, well, whatever happened, my bad. But at least we're both okay, and then carry on with my day. And it's just, nothing's the end of the world except for the end of the world.
Yeah.
If it's not going to matter in 15 years, don't think about it for more than 15
True,
minutes.
man. That's a good point. Fuck. Wow.
Yeah,
good podcast, man.
Yeah. Good stuff.
2 hours and 14 minutes. Shoot. I hope you guys enjoyed this installment and this pilot episode of John. What the heck? I'm sorry. I don't know why I said the word John. or Zach's podcast, man. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. That's my dad's name, so it works.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been fun, man. This has been a really great. I think this has been therapeutic. This has been personally therapeutic for me, man.
It's nice to get it off the chest, like get some things off.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and just acknowledge them as real things. Yeah.
And that's why I like to go free flow, man, because like sometimes it's just good to let what's really personally relevant just come out.
Well, and neither one of us apparently are structured, so it's probably better to be open about it. Right?
Yeah, man. If I were to read a bullet point, I'd be like, this bullet point.
It would sound monotone, right?
It would sound so.
Yeah, I think I started off a little rough, but this experience was. I appreciate it. Appreciate the equipment. Appreciate.
It's fun, dude.
Appreciate everything.
All right. See you guys next time.
Signing off.